Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Go-To Food Podcast, brought to you by Swaledale Whole Carcass Artisan Butchers, who supply the finest meat from the Yorkshire Dales to some of Britain's top restaurants and to you too at home. Swaledale produces meat that is interesting to cook, flavoursome to eat, and shows why native breeds deserve our support and promotion. So click the link in the description below to go straight to their online shop, where you can try some of their extraordinary treats for yourself, including the creations that Ben is going to maybe let us sample later on for the wonderful guest we have on the show today, which is, of course, the award-winning food writer of 8 books and the restaurant critic for the Mail on Sunday, amongst plenty of other things. And actually happens to be the Queen's son as well, which is quite a wonderful mix. The wonderful Tom Parker-Bowles. Tom, welcome. Firstly, and most pressingly, how's your mum doing? Because she was a bit under the weather. Is she going to be in full recovery mode for silly season and the build-up to Christmas?
I think so. I think as you know, as these things go around, these bugs, and there's no great conspiracy theory or anything. She did the tour and she caught some sort of awful bug, and then before she was well again, worked too hard as she's wont to do. Yeah. But anyway, touch wood, all be fine. She's
going to be able to enjoy the run into Christmas.
She's tough. I mean, not quite probably like we will. But
no.
It's a bit older, and not like perhaps I used to enjoy the run into Christmas.
Well, we're going to get into that later.
Okay.
Mentioning Christmas, are you spending it up in Sandringham? Have you got the invite, or are you going to be down in London? What are you doing?
Usually I spend it with my ex-wife and children, sat in my not quite my boxer shorts, but my tracksuit bottoms, cooking obviously beef and something in Swaledale, by the way. I'm not just being oily, it's a fantastic butcher.
Yeah.
Yes, and so and cooking and watching the telly and going to the pub and all those lovely things. I'm not sure about this Christmas at the moment. Very kindly have been invited.
Ooh.
It's
You've got to do it.
It's to the children, but obviously Christmas is a time to be together and all the rest of it. But it's been quite a while since I've put on something smart for Christmas, gone to church, done that. So genuinely not entirely sure. But if I'm sure that it will work itself out.
The pub is great on Christmas Day, though, isn't it? As a fullback.
Oh, I grew up in the country, and of course we didn't really go to the pub. And suddenly, for the last 5-10 years, like you put the beef in the oven and you just wander off to the pub, and it's almost like it's like something that's 28 days later. There's not many people left in town, but you're in the pub, and it's really, really nice. And I like Christmas Day for many things, but probably not for the traditional food.
So you're beef, not turkey?
Beef, yeah, hell yeah. I mean, before Victoria and Dickens came along and sentimentalised Christmas and brought religion into it, religion is obviously a very important part of Christmas, and family too. But the pagan 12 days of Christmas sounded a lot more fun.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah, we're all back in earlier.
What are you? You beef, turkey?
Yeah, turkey.
Okay.
I just, at one time a year, we roll out the turkey.
Yeah, okay.
But you're a Thanksgiving man, so maybe you're not a turkey man.
I've already done the turkey. I want to go full into beef.
Yeah, beef or stuffed boar's head. The usual stuff.
Just the usual.
When John Williams of the Ritz obviously came on, he was waxing lyrical about your stepfather, godfather, the king, and his love for mutton, amongst all these other things, being a great champion of sort of countryside meat and everything. If you get down there, are you going to be able to cook him like a feast, or has his diet changed now? I don't know. I
think the point is John Williams, let's just start there, is one of the great chefs of this country. He has been criminally overlooked by Michelin. Why that is, I can't take Michelin too. So I realise chefs love Michelin. I know that 1 stars usually get assigned 2-star. You're thinking, there's some fine chefs, but why John Williams hasn't got 2 stars? If you judge it by the brilliance and the intricacy and the creativity of the whole thing, I don't get it. I think it's some of the best food, not just in London, but in the world. It's the only posh food I really like to eat, I'll be honest. Once a year. And he's just brilliant. But back to John, he's got 3 recipes in the book for mutton, because, we think mutton, again, Dickensian, tallow, fatty, too strong. But it's not. It's what sheep or teenage lamb should taste of. It's absolutely delicious. And my stepfather, King, about 15 years ago, started this campaign called the Mutton Renaissance, because no one was eating it. Just eating the lamb, and mutton was seen as chuck it. And of course, you would eat it in different cultures, and quite rightly so. And he got down, I never forget, and it was sort of, I helped a little bit, not very much, but it was sort of Roly Lee, Marco Pierre White, I think Angela Hartnett, John Williams. I mean, it was literally the great and good of the food world 15 years ago. And of course, he was preaching to the converted. They all love mutton, So, it was, he's a great, I can say this without sounding too oily. He's a great food hero, the King, because he knows farming. He understands heritage, breeds and rare breeds and heritage varieties of fruit and vegetables. He was talking about sustainability and diversity and regenerative farming years ago. And everyone's saying,
everyone's sneering at him, right? He was ahead of his time. Yeah,
he's eccentric, and now of course it's a norm. So I do feel justified. I don't know anything about architecture or anything like that. But when it comes to food and when it comes to the king, he really is a food hero, and you go around the country and see. And
John was saying he also had like a perfect palate, right? He could pick out. What was it? He was picking out John's dish in a lineup. He was picking out John's
dishes from. Anyway. You're naming some of the other Michelin star chefs there, but he could sort of tell from the 3 dishes John made out of 30 which ones were John's.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I didn't know that, but and John's always, and John at the Ritz, you have. I love the take. I know that Otto's does it as well, but that bringing back of the table side of the theatre, and you have to have a big room to do it. You have to have a front of house who are trained, but. To put on a suit and tie to go for lunch or dinner, and to sit there and it really is. It's sort of
you can't really get that.
Just it's incredible.
We're meant to be going there for our Christmas party, aren't we?
We are, yeah.
We'll have to send John a quick message. Now, apparently you were a chili addict.
Yes.
You nicknamed it sort of, what was it, Culinary Cocaine.
Yes,
I thought Ben Bentham's the only person in the world who carried Tabasco with him in a little keyring everywhere he went, but apparently you do the same.
I do indeed. I carry a bottle because on British Airways, if I, travelling, unless you're very lucky in first class, they don't put Tabasco. Yeah. That's why I love going Korea Airways or whatever. Air Korea, because you get all the Gernshang. Yeah. Tabasco is, I love hot sauces, but we grew up in the country in England, and we didn't really have any chili or spice. There might have been an old tub of curry powder at the back of the larder for some disgusting coronation chicken. But that was it. It was the Tabasco that would sit on the drinks table for the Bloody Marys. Yeah. And for me and my sister, we'd like dare each other to have a bit of, wow, this food kicks back. And it was from there, and when I was at boarding school at 13, I had my first curry. And since then, it starts off, it's a gateway drug. It's the Tabasco. Before you know it, you're on Dave's Insanity and Air 3A in reserve and doing whatever it is. But I went through a stage, I'm obsessed with chili, and I went through a stage of collecting hot sauces. And a book I did years ago called The Year of Eating Dangerously. Yeah. I went off to Albuquerque to the Far East Food Show. There's a guy called Dave DeWitt, who I always used to call the Pope of Peppers. And he wrote a lot of really seminal books, if you like this sort of thing, about peppers and hot cuisines and the rest. And he didn't like me at all, basically.
Why?
He took one look at me. I can't remember. Anyway, he's quite grumpy, so I wrote he was quite grumpy. Anyway, so we sort of fell out, and he said, toff, wanker, whatever it was he called me, which was fine, but I really, really like, and it's amazing how the hot sauce world has blown up. Yeah. Hotheads used to be quite a specialist website, almost like a bit slightly sort of under the counter website. Yeah. And now you see it in, you see them in Waitrose and you see them in Tesco, you see hot sauce everywhere. But yeah, I think it is genuinely addictive. Chili. I've been to Avery Island about 4 or 5 times in Louisiana.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic because you get the chance. You go to New Orleans and you go down to Avery Island, which is near, I suppose, Lafayette's, it's near its big city. But you go down to like where, I don't know if there's a guy called James E. Burke, Dave Robichaux, who's a sort of Cajun cop, beautiful writer, and he's there in Bow Bridge, and so you have the crayfish and you have the jambayana, and I much prefer Cajun to Creole food. But anyway, the Tabasco factory is for me like going to Graceland as an Elvis fan.
That's the pilgrimage.
Oh, you go there and it's built on a salt pyramid or a cone. And it's just brilliant. Every bottle that's ever made of Tabasco is all made there.
Is that right?
Yeah, everything. They grow chilies all over South America, but every bottle, they all come and they're all put into they're fermented. And so I know people will go, oh, Tabasco's boring and overrated, but it's the ground zero of hot sauces. And, airline food is disgusting, and Tabasco just makes
it helps you, yeah. I just wish the one that came on the keyring, it's sort of a single shot. That's the problem.
It is, and it is. Yeah, you need. But you can have the normal size one, in your carry-on. I put it in with my toothpaste. Yeah. But yeah, it's essential. I love it. I'm addicted. I mean, literally, I can't really go through a couple of days without chili here.
Well, you've written the most extraordinary book detailing over 100 recipes, which have been enjoyed by the royal family from Queen Victoria up to your mother. But before we get delved into that, Ben, and you can see that I've been using a lot because I've already kind of stained it, which all great cookbooks should be like that.
That's what it should be. I want to, because it's got history in it, but anyway, it's got recipes
to
be cooked from.
But first, we have a drink, Ben. What have you made?
Well, I've made...
Go on.
And actually, I was going to make this before reading the book.
Okay.
Because I've read before, you have quite specific thoughts on martini, am I right?
Well, I do, and I know it's really boring. And there's, you haven't had Alice Lascelles on. She's got a brilliant martini book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think I've seen
that. A martini. There's no such thing if you say, "Can I have a martini? Do you want vodka or gin?" No. A martini is gin. It's a vodka martini.
Well,
you're having it. Yeah. And I have total respect for vodka, but it's gin.
Yeah. Well, I've got that bit right. But this is for a king, not the king. Is that right?
It's for a king. It's quite specific. I mean, it's quite sort of general. You know, it's
a martini fit for a king.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite a wet martini. As you see, it's got a lot of vermouth in. I love this. You get a drink here.
Yeah, of course.
Fantastic.
Well, Ben, as you bring that out, we're going to ask you, what's your go-to cocktail?
I would say martini. I can't use it. It was either Clive James or Barry Humphries. Who the expression? I think it was.
Oh no, you can use it. We're rated R.
Okay,
we're rated R.
I mean, he used it, so it's not mine. I think it was dry as a nun's twat. Was the expression, but that was not me. I'm obviously just quoting.
Yeah.
But yes, dry as a Sahara.
Yeah, very dry.
But really, really dry. In an ideal world, I'd like it. I'd like a Gibson with cocktail onions, but I don't mind it with an olive, and I'll certainly have a whatever it's called, a bit of peel. You know.
Where do you get the best martini in London?
Well.
Apart from in a basement from Ben.
Yeah, well, this is...
I've been fighting to keep this cold. That's been my challenge.
Well, this is just genius, is it?
Yeah.
But okay, so I love the Quo Vadis one.
Yeah.
And you can have that down. You have to be a member of the club. That's fantastic. Dukes, I love Alessandro. Everyone says Dukes, obviously. Dukes, and I wouldn't argue with the great man here, but that's less, it's more of a frozen, you know, it's so little vermouth, and you get so ratted after one or two, because you're having a double or triple measure, because it's frozen, but it's not being diluted by, you know, stirring with the ice. So, you know, I'd say, yes, Dukes, you have to go to Dukes. It's a magnificent place to go for martini, and Alessandro is the martini king. Quo Vadis, there used to be a place called, thank you very much, called the Westbury Hotel, where they did it in the same way as Ben Woolman's bar at the Carlisle. You would get your martini, but the remains would be given to you next door in a tiny shaker, so you get 1.5 martinis.
That's a
nice touch.
Really nice.
Well,
anyway, cheers.
I hope I was
cheers.
meant to throw the lime in there. I think I was.
I love this. That's it. And then stir with your.
That's gorgeous.
That's really good. Actually,
kept it cold.
It's beautiful. It has to be cold. Perfect glass. With the martini, when you go to America and you go to Vegas, you know, you get these huge martinis. It kills it because it's warm by the time you get to it. You need this glass, and that's really nice. I haven't actually tried that before.
Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely delicious.
Yeah, okay, good.
Well, thank you.
Well, there you go. Fit for a king.
Thank you, Ben.
Excellent. Oh, what gin have you used?
I'm actually not sure.
I never know. I mean,
a good friend is has, I think, it might be Hendrix.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's gin. There seems to be a profusion of gins on the market.
Yeah.
People come saying, starting a new gin.
New gin business. Yeah. I know. Hendrix feels a bit maybe old school.
Yeah, I like Tanqueray, Hendrix.
Shout out Claire. Thank you for the gin.
Thank you, Claire, for the gin.
Thank you, Claire.
That's lovely.
Where are we, Freddie?
Canapes.
Oh yeah, Tom. So imagine Freddie and I coming over to yours for dinner. What are we going to have pre-dinner in terms of snack?
Are we staying on message with the book, or are we going straight?
No, you can go anywhere. We're going to come back to the book properly.
Okay.
Don't you worry, we'll be back. Yeah.
So snacks, basically, I would, depending on what it was, if I've been to Spain, I was feeling particularly sort of, flush. You get some, hamel, really nice hamel, sliced really thinly, brought to room temperature. Oysters is always a bit of a, I don't know, because I don't like oysters, some people say. I'll tell you what I'm obsessed with. I love regional Thai food. And they have a dish called Miang Kum, which they get a betel leaf, which is quite different, fresh betel leaf. And you have a big pile of those, big green, sort of rather verdant, lovely leaves. And then you have a pile of toasted coconut, a pile of Bao bird's eye chilies.
Yeah.
You have limes with the rind still on, cut into small bits. You have a very sweet, slightly spicy sauce. What else do you have in that? And you just mix it all in and wrap it in, and then some dried shrimp. And you put it, and you have this mouthful that is the very essence of Thai, sweet and salty and savoury and hot. Sweet, salty, sharp and hot. And it's just, and of course you can add more chilies if you want.
That sounds
and it's, my great thing is that we don't have that many Thai restaurants in this country. Great Thai food. We have lots of Thai food, but the Thais, just like Indians, Bangladeshis and Pakistanis before them, came open restaurants, thought, they're bit bland, the palate, will tone down our food. So the vast majority of Thai restaurants is green chicken curries that taste like melted bounty.
Yeah.
Sweet and cloying. Whereas there's a few people, weirdly in West London.
Yeah, where would we, if we were looking
Thai
for...
101 Kitchen on King Street, I love. They have the aunties who do both southern and Isson. So you're going to get that really hot, really hot sort of coconutty curries. And then up to Isson, much more sort of, as David Thompson would say, jungly.
Yeah.
Much more sort of herbal and medicinal, but, but still quite fierce. But Thai 101, then there's this one, I'm obsessed, Fittus, which is in North Kensington, just by Wormwood Scrubs. I've got to know the chef there over the last 2 years. And now I can have my Canon Jean and, all the, it just makes me absolutely, and it gets to the point, the heat, especially with some of the larbs, that you're just, my God.
So hold on, are you off menu there now? Is that what you're saying? He's kind of doing or they are doing little treats?
She's doing little snacks, because I think chefs are so happy to be able to cook how they actually cook.
Yeah.
And I just sit there sweating bullets, but just love it. And my girlfriend's like, you're right.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah. And just so happy. And then I think there's that wonderful place east.
Singburi.
If
Have you managed to go in there?
Once I went in.
Yeah,
there.
well done.
With Kay Plunkett Hogg, who actually is English but Thai as well, and she loved it, and that's really good. And I quite liked wasn't Farron. What was the one that got into awful trouble for it wasn't Nam.
Somsar.
I thought the food was fantastic, and I loved his
new pickle, didn't they?
Yeah, I think there was something happened. I can't remember. It was some sort of.
I think they were doing a Thai accent over videos.
Yes,
it just was silly. It was not good.
It was just not Anyway, that was, I remember that. And you thought, oh God.
Yeah.
But then there's that. Then there's also David Thompson's back in town. And David Thompson is like my hero. I think Thai food is one of the great cookbooks of the world.
Yeah.
All cookbooks should have, I think, they should put into perspective or put into context why you're eating the food. That bright pink book is a masterpiece.
It's amazing.
It really is.
Where is David Thompson cooking now?
He is now opened a Longjin in Rupert Street. I've got a feeling it's on the site of the old Russell place, the American place. I can't remember what that was called. There's one in Gatwick, funnily enough. It was that sort of American dining room.
Oh,
Spontino's. Yeah. I think it might be on there. But anyway, Dave is there. And I think he was here with Nam 20 years ago, it was so before its time to do regional Thai, not sort of pandering to any specific taste and doing it as hot or sharp or funky as it's supposed to be. And it was there with, in a posh hotel, the Hauken. It got a star. It was incredible. And once a year I go travelling with him around Thailand, and once every 2 years we go to the south, we go to the north. His husband's Thai, he speaks fluent Thai. Wow. It is literally, it's like going to the Vatican with the Pope.
Wow.
Although he's Australian. I think he's just about accepted. He did what Diana Kennedy did in Mexico,
yeah.
And he went around all these, because it's obviously very much a verbal tradition, and apart from the royal kitchens that have their own records, he would go around all the regions and picking up these recipes, and of course the Thais were like, what's this farang? How dare he? Same as the Mexicans with Diana Kennedy, but I think now there's a grudging, well, not more than a grudging respect, there's a big respect.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and he is, he's just very dry and wry and brilliant. I love him.
What about morning drink, the first thing you drink in the morning? We've had some weird ones.
What sort of Christmas Day or just on a normal day?
No, just in life.
In life. Coffee. But I'm really, really weird about coffee. I have a what do they call it? A Chemex.
Okay, yeah. Which is the glass one.
The glass
one,
nice, yeah.
Wooden cup. Is
exactly,
that the one?
Has a wooden cup, and you basically grind. I love. I grind my coffee fresh every day, and it's a pour over. And so I get it from Dark Arts, my coffee.
Oh, nice.
I love Dark Arts. It's not just they're much cooler than I am. I wouldn't dare go in there, but you get these ones, these amazing names like the Devil has the Devil Made Me Do It.
Yeah.
But actually they're fantastic single state, really ethically sourced, beautiful beans, and you can get all sorts of flavor profiles from Mexico, from all over the place. So I have that black, and that's, I can't really, it sounds like a bad 80s movie, I can't do anything before coffee, but it's the ritual of getting up, the grinding, the doing, the point. Then I have my Barocca.
Do you have like timings?
No,
you sort of blooming it, then repouring
I bloom it,
then...
but I'm too mean to buy the special.
Right.
So I just do it from the kettle. But I give it the minute bloom with a little dribble.
Yeah,
and then use the special Chemex, filters. And it's really, really good. Then I have a Barocca after that, because then I take tons of supplements.
That's a good one too. You love a one too.
I do like a one too, yeah.
The Barocca.
Black coffee and Barocca.
Mushroom supplements.
Oh, really? What do you want? Lion's mane or something?
Lion's mane. I think they're saying, I don't know. I mean, all these things are probably absolute bullshit, but I do like the ritual of my sort of, my mushroom supplement, my Barocca, and I think I have a vitamin D or something.
Yeah, nice. People sort of talk misty-eyed about like the clarity they get after lion's mane.
Is it? Oh, do they?
I mean, I don't know.
What? Yeah. What's the weirdest thing you've heard to start the morning with? I mean, I'd sometimes a Coke Zero if I got a
that's
hangover.
Nice. Yeah, well, that's the next question.
Sorry.
Hangover. Well, the weirdest thing we've actually had, and then I'll ask you about a hangover drink of choice, is people like a guy called Ruben who drank a pint of boiling water.
Yeah.
Is that something to do? Does it have the lemon in it? No.
I think it was just boiling
just
hot water.
Neat, wasn't it?
And it wasn't even warm, it was boiling.
No, he just took it down.
He took it down and his whole body would sort of come alive.
He said he could feel it anyway.
But very dangerous. Don't do that at home.
Yeah, do not drink boiling water. So I don't know if your hangover days are behind you, Tom, but if they aren't, how are you curing yourself in the morning?
Well, hangovers hurt. I'm 50 in a couple of weeks, and hangovers really hurt these days. They're not fun. They're existential. They're, it's the long, dark day of the soul.
Yeah.
And especially certain ones. Some nights you go out and you have a couple of bottles of wine and you feel fine. Some nights you go out and have a couple of cocktails and a couple of glasses and you wake up feeling like death.
Yeah.
I think basically it used to be, again, this is all being rethought out because I've now worked out that Coke is probably as bad, have full fat, don't have, because the shit they put in Coke Zero is really not good for you. Yeah. But I've moved, I couldn't drink Diet Coke, so it's different, but I love Coca-Cola. Yeah. Ever since being sort of, as a child, allowed half a can a week, it goes the wrong direction. I love Dr. Pepper. I mean, Dr. Pepper is the greatest soft drink.
It's
but
unbelievable, yeah.
I have a lot of time for comedy soft drinks. I love bars, Cherryade, and all the stuff you find in your local corner shop, really interesting stuff. The brilliant ginger beer, it's not all Caribbean, it's the brown tin of ginger.
Yeah, what is that?
Caribbean choice. Anyway, it's really gingery. I could do a mastermind on soft drinks. And of course, Mexican Coca-Cola is the best because it's the only one left on earth that uses cane sugar rather than high fructose corn syrup. So you still get this very uncloying taste. And
you get that hit.
You get it here for £8 in Hackney. And it's whatever it's 82p in Mexico. But
is it Old Jamaica?
Old Jamaica
ginger beer. Sorry, I just had to clear that up.
Absolute cracker. But yes, so it would be that as a hangover. And then there's this water that I'm obsessed by called Vichy Catalan.
Oh, yeah, with slightly saline. Yeah.
Actually, really saline.
And
as I drink less as I get older, I feel justified in spending more on Ponzi fizzy water. Nice. And I get it from Zap.
Is that what they have in Bouche and Racine?
Maybe.
Yes, it is. Because I'll tell you exactly why.
I remember that being very salty when I had it.
Yes, and because the brilliant Dave, who's front of house, and yes, I used to see him on Instagram posting hangover. And it's just brilliant.
And what food combo with that?
Bacon sandwich, I think.
Yeah.
But
streaky,
bacon, streaky. And red sauce, obviously.
Yeah.
Not taking it as northern chat about
agreed.
brown. And also never, ever, ever, sound like Partridge, ever, sourdough. Because, you need proper
sourdough. As Max Halley said of Max's Sandwich Shop.
I love him.
Fuck sourdough,
I love him. He is a genius,
Well, give some, give some praise to Ben, who also wrote the book.
Co-wrote his books.
Yeah.
But, he is the genius.
So you wrote those books. I was down at Abergavenny for the pissing with rain as usual.
He was there, right?
And he was there, and I went to go and buy the new one, and it bloody sold out.
Oh, really? I'll send you one, Tom.
Well, no, because I'll buy it, but I loved your first one. I thought that was brilliant. Picnics on the train. They are mini masterpieces.
They're silly. They're fun, though. Yeah,
but they're not silly at all. There's nothing silly
they're very
about
serious.
them.
But sometimes to sneak serious stuff on people, the best way is to be silly.
Beautifully
do you know what I mean?
produced, written, everything else.
Yeah.
Well,
it's very
talking about fabulous books. I mean, I love reading this book. For those who don't know about it, though, can you give us a quick sort of plot history and how it came about?
Yeah. Okay. So 25 years of writing about food. I've studiously ignored talking about the royal family, the royals, anything like that, purely because, for obvious reasons, nepo middle-aged man, coming in and doing it. And the nearest I ever got was an occasion I'd give my mother's roast chicken recipe that was really nice. Get the best chicken you can afford, shove a lemon up its arse, put some salt, cover it with butter, put it in the Arga. Now, I don't really like Argas. I would, obviously, if I had my mansion, I would have my Arga and I'd have my cereal.
Your Wolf Sub-Zero or something else, yeah.
But I learned to cook on a baby belling, and it's great. But so yes, but I've always been fascinated as a food geek and a collector of cookbooks. I got given about 20 years ago a book by my mother called Royal Chef.
Yeah,
and it's by a guy called Gabriel Schumi, a Swiss guy who started under Victoria and worked all the way under Edward VII, George V. And then worked as royal chef to Queen Mary. When George V had died, she lived in think it was Clarence House or maybe the one next door, Marlborough House, I think she lived in. And really, it was just fascinating. He got there at the end of Victoria's reign. There were 45 people in the Buckingham Palace kitchen, Windsor Castle kitchen. There were spits and open ranges with whole oxes on. There was, the sizzle. Breakfast was 15 dishes. Lunch was 12 to 14 courses. Tea was immense tea. And there'd be dinner, 14 to 16 courses. And he wrote, to quote Craig Brown, in that sort of slightly genuflecting prose that you had to write about the royals in those days, because otherwise it would be banned. And it was wonderful. So you don't actually, you read between the lines to see what it was like. But they were cooking these dishes. This was at the very peak of Escoffier, Cesar Ritz. You had Francatelli, who was Victoria's pastry chef. You had Carême, who was just cooking just before for the Prince of Wales. Money was no object. Yeah. Labour was no object. A pheasant consommé with force meat balls would take 17 hours to make. You would do Edward VII, who I fell in love with. This trencherman. He didn't drink very much, but my God, he could eat. He always had a flask of turtle soup on him, or one of his people did, which took 18 hours to make. And the recipe starts: procure a fine, fat, lively turtle. You flip it over. So these they're now endangered. Obviously. Yeah. But there would be
Thanks for this guy, by the sounds of things.
Well, exactly. And there would be a whole leg of beef in there. There would be knuckles of this and that. But to clarify that much, to cook it down, clarify it. That would take 3 people 2 days. His favourite dish, Edward VII, and he had big appetites, like everything. And his favourite dish was a snipe dish, and it was snipe, these tiny little wading birds. And you'd have to debone it, which, if you ever cooked, to debone a quail. I can't even debone a chicken. No. But this takes the skill of a surgeon. And they'd debone it, then they would cover it with foie gras, game force meat, wrap it in pig's caul, pane, breadcrumb it, and then grill it, and then cover it in a truffle and Madeira sauce. And they were about that big, and he could eat them by the dozen, as a snack. And of course, they took 12 hours to make. And another favourite dish he had at the coronation was quail deboned, and then you would stuff it with foie gras again, and then you would paint it with a chaud-froid glaze. So a really sort of intricate, that would take ages to do. And then you'd reattach the head, and you'd remake the eyes, the white of the eye with egg white, the black with truffle. You'd pin it back on with a cocktail stick, and then you'd put it onto a huge pile of pineapple granita. Now, ever since Charles II, pineapple was this symbol of wealth. Because it would cost you so much, your pinery, and Victoria had a lot of these pineries, you had to heat it through the winter. So it was only the rich that could have, pineapples, and the nouveaux used to sort of have it on their table.
People rent it and almost pass it round the sort of, you'd go from house to house.
Exactly, and it would rot. And have you ever had Annie Gray on the show?
No.
She's brilliant.
Yeah,
she
she'd
wrote
be amazing.
The Greedy Queen.
Yeah.
And she is just knows, I just very, very consciously Annie, Dr. Annie Gray, who writes beautiful, but her and Penn Vogler, Dining with Dickens, these sort of people you lean on. And obviously, The Greedy Queen, along with Royal Chef, inspired me to do this book. But oh my God, it was the amount they ate in those, and nothing was wasted. Of course, one of the perks of working for the royal family, you weren't paid much, but you had accommodation and food. Meat, especially in Victorian days, this was a luxury. So they, the top, footmen got the queries, they got the best, and it went all the way down. So it was incredible, the food. It was a mixture of haute French, Escoffier type French, and the comfort food, which is much more this roast beef. And
I was going to say, there's not a lot of that, what you've just described in the book. I was thinking how down to earth the royals were.
Well, I think with Queen Victoria, and I think with Edward VII, then you get to George V, who was a very different man. He was very upright and serious, and would have lived on naval rations. He was in the Navy, and he loved curry, and he loved Bombay duck, and he liked mashed potato, and he liked cutlets, and he didn't like this fancy French stuff. And I think it was Harold Nicholson said he was a great, it was sort of killing things and collecting stamps. And it was actually a bit unfair, because I read lots of biographies, and he was a much more serious figure. But it was at that point where the wonderful excess of the Edwardian era disappeared, and World War I came in, and they tightened everything. And it was, but it's a joy, this researching a book is often more fun.
Yeah, that's the fun bit. Yeah,
I'd never read a royal biography in my life. I didn't know anything about it apart from this book, Royal Chef, and disappeared and just going through these endless.
Did you watch The Crown or not?
No, I watched the first 5 minutes of one of them. I think. No, for no other reason. I watched a bit of it, and they got my dad so wrong, and I thought, fuck you.
We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Square is an all-in-one restaurant tech solution built for single and multi-location restaurants, bars and pubs. It's the point of sale that works with almost everything you need for day-to-day service. Payment processing, table management, and inventory management are just the beginning. The best restaurant POS software gives you the power to connect the front and back of house while freeing you up to focus on the customer experience, improving the flow of orders, and finding more ways to keep profit in your pocket. With Square for Restaurants, get menu management, online ordering, self-service ordering, and much, much more. Drop the pen and paper and simplify the way you run your business. For more information, visit www.square.com or click the link in the bio. One thing I was fascinated by, amongst plenty, was the fact that even though there's been so much change since Queen Victoria's times, one thing which has remained a present has been the presence of afternoon tea every day.
Yeah.
So can you just tell our listeners, they still have, your mother still has afternoon tea every day at 5 o'clock?
Absolutely.
And if you were going around, what would you be having? And then also after that, can you just take us through, like, if you do head up this Christmas?
Yeah.
Like, what's a normal day of food like? You
see, I wouldn't. So first of all, tea. Tea is two things have endured. So everything else has gone. The excess and the huge kitchens. Although there's still, an amazing Mark Flanagan's Royal Chef, and it's much more of a commercial thing. Mark is like the field marshal, and they're feeding the whole household. IT and security and carpenters. And So it's still a massive undertaking to be, to the royal kitchens, and they cook. And the state bank was 300 people. But if you think tea, I don't really like sweet things. Like I respect them, but I'd always go for the sandwiches over the cake, crumpets over the scones. But there are always crumpets, scones, two cakes, cutting cakes as they're called, although I didn't know it was called that. You might get potted shrimps, which makes me very happy indeed. Sandwiches, and I love posh sandwiches, Fortnum's, these. I really love sandwiches. So, and I just sit there, just eat it, and really nice tea, loose leaf tea.
Yeah.
And it is, and even if, at any point, it's possibly the most important meal of the day, because breakfast, different times, lunch, everyone's all over the place, tea, everyone's there for tea, So it's a really, really important.
Yeah. But then would they eat supper after?
Oh yeah.
At what time? Because if that's at 5...
Oh, but a bit later, 8:30 maybe.
Okay.
But very simple seasonal. All these things that, as we talked about, the sustainability angle and all that, is that it will always be, mushrooms in season that are picked by the king and my mother, who really know their mushrooms. And, asparagus, everything it's practicing what is preached. There's no sort of, hey, let's get some asparagus in from Peru. It's very, very seasonal, very, very, as local as possible.
And I read that the king doesn't even eat lunch. Is that right?
Well, I think...
Or is that changed?
No.
You've got afternoon tea coming up. You don't need to worry, right?
At a certain point, he was incredibly disciplined and didn't. I don't know. And I think he follows the advice of what his doctors... I'm certainly not the person to start mouthing off about stuff I really don't know about. But yes, it was. He was an incredibly disciplined eater, but yet loves food and knows really genuinely. And I will say, I'm not being oily here. Someone who knows more about food than I. He's probably forgotten more about food than I'll ever know. You can talk to him about. If I'm writing anything for Country Life about damsons or plums, I can always go to him and talk and he is encyclopedic. Well, there's this one and this, and he'll give you the history and context. But he's met so many people. He's always met, Carlo Petrini of So Food or Patrick Holden for this. All these people that he speaks their language. So this is my world, and this is why, I felt it was. Sort of okay, because obviously it has to come with the king's blessing.
Yeah, of course.
Write it, but it was. I think if people are expecting a culinary spare, I think they're going to be a little bit disappointed.
Have they cooked from your book?
Well, a lot of the recipes are from Mark.
I know your mum has a couple of recipes in there.
She has her scrambled eggs, but that's a sort of mother's scrambled eggs. Ask your mother how to do my mother. How do you give me the recipe? Well, you just do it.
Yeah,
brilliant.
You know, there's roast chicken or salad or asparagus or fish, pork chops. We used to eat, what's happened to pork chops? When I was growing up, we used to go to
a lot of
pork chops.
Yeah.
But your mum was a big fan of the chicken Kiev as well, right?
Yeah, the Sainsbury's. Oh my God, when Sainsbury's arrived in Chippenham, where I grew up in Wiltshire, in about 1980, and I just said, it was like that moment where the ship comes down in Close Encounters. Me and my sisters were like, oh my God, the white light, you know, the strip lit neon, the multi packs of Monster Munch, the Ice Magic, the white bread. I mean, screw the butcher and the fishmonger and the greengrocer. This was
like life suddenly got good.
Oh, and then of course, and even my mother, who, you know, like all mothers do, most mothers do cook for their children. Yeah. And having cooked for my children when they were growing up, it's quite boring sometimes
and disheartening as well.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
You know? And so it wasn't the joy. You know, my perfect Saturday is actually, it was almost last. As a Spurs fan, it was pretty much a perfect Saturday.
Yeah.
But anyway, you cook. You got people coming over for dinner. You have a good lunch somewhere. You know, not too heavy, and then you wander back, buy your bits and pieces, and maybe open a bottle of wine, and you've got the football or the rugby, whatever it is on. And that's fun cooking. You know?
Yeah.
So, whereas for the kids, you're like, oh God, I'm blah, 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 and doing that. And so it was very much like that. But she was a really good cook, but she was very English cook. We wouldn't, as I said, there was no spice.
No.
It was a very, very, in those days, you didn't go out to eat in the country. You might have gone to the chippie, you know, if she couldn't be bothered to cook, and that was very exciting.
Yeah.
In Corsham. The Golden Dolphin, I think. It was quite good, although we all know that, you know, you can't, chippy should be by the sea or in Scotland.
Yeah. Well, somehow some of the best ones aren't they?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that was a huge treat. Macca's wasn't down there. Wimpy went occasionally to Bath to Wimpy.
Nice.
Was that Swindon, actually.
Did you eat in London when you came up?
Well, that was quite weird because when we'd have this sort of double life that we live in the country, then my grandmother, we got up to London. My grandmother would take us out to lunch at really nice Italian restaurants. So it was like La Fontana's long gone, but it was Neva Street, Mimo Dischi long gone, but very British Italian style. Yeah. So you'd have your prawn cocktail and your spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah.
But yet somehow it was, so the only two things I knew growing up were English food and Southern Italian food, because we used to go on holiday to Ischia off Naples. And it was, you know, I thought that was food really. I thought there was nothing more than that. We didn't, until I went to boarding school and beyond, I'd never tasted curry or Chinese food or anything. So that was a whole like.
So when did the broader like obsession with food take hold?
I think from the beginning, it's always like there's always in the other royal family, as in the Caroline Ahern one. What'd you have for tea?
Yeah.
You know, and it's exactly the same. I still with the children, with my sister, with my father. Oh, what'd you have for dinner?
Yeah.
What'd you have for lunch? We all like. Going shopping was always we still get excited going off to the supermarket. Foreign supermarkets, of course, are the most brilliant. But I always go into foreign supermarkets.
Yeah, well, Freddie just made a pilgrimage.
Well, I went all the way to Calais to go to City Europe.
Oh my God, that's one of the biggest hypermarket.
Yeah, and spent 6 hours walking around getting some incredibly good deals, and then just drove back. It was
genius,
and
wine as well.
Yeah. Quite a good way to spend a Saturday.
I do.
Apart from the storm.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was a bastard of a storm. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was always absurd. We always like, because we had to work. You know, my father like, come and, you know, put up this or lettuces. We had a basic knowledge of when things came in. We knew that peas and broad beans came in because we had to bloody pod them.
Yeah.
Not so much the peas and broad beans for the freezer. Do you remember the freezer with everything? Everything's in the freezer. And yes, and it was, we just talk about it. My father would go off and supposed to go and buy, I don't know, whatever it was, blue roll or milk, and he'd come back with like kippers and smoked mackerel and weird bits of meat, you know, because it was but yeah, we all love food and yeah, it was a real, I hate the word foodie, but it wasn't a foodie, but it was just, we all enjoyed our food and we all appreciated it and we all knew bad food as well. And we were really offended, all of us, by bad food.
Oh, rightly so. Talking about going to France, talking about going abroad, is it right? I mean, I was reading that on one of your holidays to Portugal, there was like a daily, or like a News of the World stinger pretending to be a chef.
I think it was it was basically, we took a place in Sintra. My grandfather took it, and Sintra's lovely, but it does sometimes sit in a cloud, and in the summer, so you've got the Algarve, pristine azure skies, but you go up a few hundred meters and you're in, and we sat, and so everything was damp to start with, just before I went to university, and then the cook turned out to be a plant from the News of the World. There were paps in the garden. It was quite an old haunted house, Oh, it's just one of those ones from hell, you know. It started off, and you think you look back and think, oh, that's a bit strange, actually. But
But being a foodie family, did you notice that they were like a sting from News of the World because they couldn't cook, or
they were no good.
I can't remember.
The food kept coming out awful. You're like, what's going on?
I was about 18. I was definitely more interested in. I was
smoking and beers and farming.
And beers, exactly. So less bothered by that than getting into the town. Like, you know. So I don't think, because it was just that age you were allowed to like drink with your parents, probably, and they didn't really mind. But it was weird. It was weird. But yeah, our holidays in Ischia with my cousins and my aunt and his uncle was just incredible. You know, it was Southern Italian food.
Yeah.
We knew antipasto and your meat, and it was just, that was just taken for granted. So, and my grandparents had a very lovely Italian couple who were amazing cooks. So
nice, great.
It was. Then on the other side, you know, there was some, you know, there was some disgusting food from my great grandmother who had these awful English cooks. You know, so it was a mix of, our home was very laid back, but my great grandmother lived in this sort of wonderful house. So it was a mix of all these sort of things that came
different
in.
worlds.
Yeah, different worlds.
Talking about weird worlds, weird experiences, is it true that your first job was at Harrods? Because that must have been very odd for you, especially with, you know, everything we know now.
Wow. You know, the funny thing,
Al-Fayed, that horrible man.
I think if you knew what was going on at 17 with Fayed, which we all did on the shop, I started off in the sheet department, fitted sheets. You know, nothing I can't tell you about fitted when I was about 17, and that was just for, I think it was for summer holidays for a week. Yeah, you know, and then it was when I'd left school in my gap year. You worked from, what was it? August until Christmas to make enough cash to go off and, you know, do stuff around the world. And and I was in the barber, I was in a country wear department, so I knew the difference between a barber, a Bedale, you know, and but also used to sleep in the store cupboard. But he was terrifying. This man used to come around the store with this bevy of bodyguards. Yeah. And at that point, I think, you know, my mother was probably on his radar. So God knows who was, you know, accused everyone else of doing everything horrible. But it was certainly before. You know, the Princess of Wales died and all that sort of stuff. But still, he was, if we knew age 17, 18 that he was a wrong un, there's just this idea.
So you did know at the time? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was famous. You know, pretty girls, he would sort of ask. And, you know, he was, horrible, man. Horrible. Yeah, I think, and it was fairly obvious at that point. But those were the days where between sort of just leaving school, university, that, you know, eating became, for the one time in life, was less of a priority than dancing in a field.
That's what I wanted to ask. Like, you were quite a famous raver, warehouses, fields, Ibiza. I mean, how much you missed those days? You're nearly 50.
It wasn't Ibiza so much. Ibiza was later, because Ibiza was quite expensive.
Yeah.
But this was, what was it? So 92, 93. So it wasn't the first summer of love. I can't claim that. It was just amazing. You know, you'd go, and the east, you know, sort of the city in Docklands wasn't so developed. So you'd have someone would break into a big warehouse, set up a system, and I think I was more at that time, it was like Toff Trance, so it was like trust fund trance, call it Goa Trance. So it was like Tip, Gumbo, Skylab, Little People, I think they're still going. But it was just amazing. You go off, you didn't think of any consequence, you go off and dance all night, you know, and with all your, you know, God knows, going through your system. But there was this feeling, what was I watching the other day that had it? It was a documentary about Loaded, actually. Which was sort of came
as in the magazine,
as in the magazine, and it came out when I was at university, and it was just like, and it was celebrated, you know. And this was before it went into sort of, you know, half-clad women on the front, and it went down that way that, you know, that was its ruin, as James Brown and everyone else said. But it was this time where there was hope, and there was this slightly, you know, obviously probably chemically based, but love. But you thought, you know, there's real hope here. There's, you know, everyone's together. It didn't matter creed, colour, religion, background. You're all there, you know, one nation under a groove. And it was, it seemed, I mean, obviously it turned out. I mean, and then, of course, Blair got in 97. That seemed like everything. Everything seemed, it was great. It was all, the 90s were fantastic. And it was, it was really fun. So not a lot of eating in those days.
No.
I mean,
no need really.
Well, literally, it was, I mean, it was the E-plan diet. Literally, I could have, looking back at pictures, like, what? And then, of course, time and children, everything changes. And you know, literally a big night out now, so a bottle of wine. Oh God.
I mean, you got fired from your first real job out of school. You're working in PR. Yeah. You probably gave them slightly bad PR, but you didn't get fired for that. There was some sort of weird drug sting in Cannes.
No, I didn't get fired for that. But I know it was
not
Cannes.
That'd be a story.
It was a Cannes Film Festival, and it was this company I worked. I left university, and then after the summer, I was sitting at my mother's house in the country. And my dad said, they were divorced. He said, right, you're going to get a job. No, so I'll be fine here. Yeah. Job, mate.
Yeah.
You're not getting anything from me. I've done my bit. Off you go. So I went, and my girlfriend at the time was living in Fulham. So I went to look at jobs, and I went to I love films, and they had Empire and Total Film in the foyer. I thought, this is amazing. Yeah. And it was called DDA. They're still going. They're really good. And they looked after New Line. They looked after Miramax. They looked after all the sort of independents and sort of Universal and stuff like that. And it was brilliant, although I was the assistant, I could string a word together, so I sort of began to write the press releases. And then, of course, when Tennant came into town, it was either, Alicia Silverstone's coming over, do you want to look after her? Like, take her to Momo's, take her to...
all right.
Or it was... Oh God, we got this guy John Waters. Does anyone know his movies? I love John Waters. So you look after John Waters. You look after your heroes. You talk about Divine. You talk about whatever it was, Desperate Living and Hairspray and all the rest of it. Yeah. So, but yet, it was the 90s, and still hadn't. Even though I was working, I hadn't quite got rid of the party bug.
The raving days. Yeah.
So and I think I got caught in a sting in Cannes by the Fake Sheikh, Mohamed Al-Fayed, and he was hiding in the bush, and a really pretty girl came and said, "Look, your cousin's in trouble," and she wasn't at all, but I said, she's really pretty, and so I fell for it, and of course, stone cold sober, 11 o'clock in the morning, because I was looking after. It wasn't. Was it anyway? I think it might have been Natural Nylon that was Jude Law, Johnny Lee Miller, Damon Bryant, Sadie Frost, and Sean Pertwee, and they were releasing their thing, and it was all and it was a Soho House boat in those days. I had a boat there, and anyway, that
couldn't have been dry.
No, and I was mouthing off, showing off, making up complete crap. I can get you. I could not have got a paracetamol, but I can get you whatever you want. Of course, there I am, and apart from the fact that suddenly I was looking after, I think it was Austin Powers 2. I was looking after either Mike Myers or Heather Graham, and suddenly 2,000 cameras didn't go onto them, they came onto me.
Oh my God.
It was terrifying, when literally it's like what I saw on to you. And Mike Myers, not known for his charm, I don't think, although he's very talented. They're all really pissed off. Use this little upstart. But it was terrifying, and they didn't tap me for that. Dennis Davison, the boss, who's an old Cannes veteran, said, frankly, when his ass was coming, frankly, I'd be surprised if someone didn't take cocaine at Cannes. And they're lovely, and so he's, they're still friends. But no, it was missing. I was in Berlin, and I missed. I think I ended up in Trezor or something really good. German techno club. I missed a really important meeting, and that was it. They said, "Okay, enough now."
But it did open the doors for you to be able to become a food critic.
Yeah,
and you went off and pursued that. But how's the job changed over the years? Because with the rise in TikTok and influencers and all that kind of stuff, obviously people still massively respect the industry and wait for it every week. Obviously, yours comes out on Sunday. Yeah. But do you feel like your power's kind of been dwindled a touch by the rise of...
Oh, totally. But I don't think the power... I've come to this. I've only been a food critic for 12 years. Now, if you look at Jay's 25, Giles might be 18, 19. Yeah. So they really saw the change of everything. I'm not sure what... Grace has been a bit longer than me. William, Tim. But anyway... So I was always a food writer. I love being a food writer. So from 2001 to about 2013, I would just get 1,000 words, and I'd go off to go see that's farmers and cheesemongers and this and that. So it was very much not criticism; it was features. Then I went into it, but it's absolutely true that the days where Jonathan Meades or Adrian Gill or Faye could close a restaurant with one review, or open it. Those days are long gone. I'm all for the democratization of food writing. It's fantastic. You see these brilliant voices, brilliant writers coming through who wouldn't have come through before. My only problem with it is that, writing about food for a newspaper or magazine, you learn about editing. You have an editor, you have a sub-editor, and they will cut out. It's still the constant. Subs are obviously the kings of the world. So they save our asses daily, and they're the unsung heroes, and I love subs, but I send in my copy and it comes back, and if something's been changed, we have a hearty discussion about it. Not just a. And I think sometimes people who haven't been through that process don't edit themselves and can bang on slightly, and be a bit self-indulgent. Writing to length is something that I learned, and you have to do. But I love it. I mean, there are certain publications. I mean, Vittles I like very much half the time. I don't dislike it the other half of the time, but I'm not so good on the the geopolitics of this and that. But I love the restaurant reviews. I think I think some of them are fantastic. Really shook things up.
Yeah, he's a very.
Did you have like an OG hero, like a Liebman or someone?
Oh, always AJ. I mean, AJ Liebman. Yeah. Well, actually, it was really the Americans. Calvin Trillin was absolute hero. The Tummy trilogy, Alice Let's Eat, American Fried, and. I think the last one was Last Orders also. But he was the first person in the 70s, and it's always the New Yorker type of I mean, Liebling was this classic sort of swaggering. He was a huge man, and was it Between Meals? Is it that?
Yeah, Between Meals, yeah.
That's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And he, that first sentence is the first thing you need to write about food is an appetite. And that is, so Liebling's my hero, although, he was he had appetites, huge.
I mean, he was appalled by the way sort of Parisian food had gone.
Of course,
50 years ago.
Yes, and how it's gone downhill.
Yeah,
I always liked, and it's funny. I loved MFK Fisher. A lot of people don't like MFK Fisher, but I've always really, really liked MFK Fisher. I like her prose a lot. Trillin is my hero, and he's still alive and still writing for the New Yorker. And he, for me, is the person who, for the first time, certainly in America, embraced the regional. Go and have the barbecue or the clam bakes or the whatever it was. He hated Casa de la House of the thing. He hated those sort of Tony joints, and he was really about the best dim sum. So, he was doing this back in the 70s, which was brilliant. But yes, I really. But the thing is, I can't walk past a charity shop. I can't walk past a bookshop. I've got books everywhere. Even when I'm living temporarily, they're coming up the side, and of course, calling in books and then buying. I found a brilliant first edition of Majid Jaffrey's The Cooking of India, which is
nice.
And then you go and find another one on my fifth, Alan Davison, the seafood of the Mediterranean, or whatever it was. So it is my geekness on food and books is just.
Didn't your wife say you had to have a 1 in 1 out policy?
I have had for quite a few years now.
Have you?
Yeah.
And how do you sneak them in?
Well, yeah, exactly. You can, as long as they arrive and she's not there. They can be unwrapped elsewhere.
Well, I've got a lock up because I'm in between sort of flats at the moment, and I'm living with my girlfriend, and even having been there for 3 months, she's just like, and I've got the kitchen table, my thing. And there's not just the ones that you call in, then there's the ones that like everyday air cooking that goes straight to the charity shop. What they call it, air pressure,
air fryers,
and that sort of stuff. But then the good ones, and I just got a book about crisps. It's absolutely brilliant. I really, really enjoy. And Tim Hayward's book on steak.
Yeah.
And I just get very excited. I don't want to read them in the bath; they're hardback, because they're too precious. Read paperbacks in the bath. But and it's just building up everywhere.
Well, you are a great food critic. We are going to ask you now to be a critic for Ben's creation. Ben, obviously Swaledale have sent you something. What's on the menu?
They sent me a few things, but I picked out some delicious merguez. But for some reason, I'm not sure what I was doing. I've turned it into a lasagna. So we've got a merguez lasagna with a little sort of Moroccan type.
I mean, the Swaledale are, up there. I was up in the Lake District with Peter Gott, one of the sort of kings of the Lake District. It's such good produce. And it really is thriving. It's not just people going, oh, it's so nice. Farming is the backbone. And it's.
Do you have beef with other critics? Like I know you're great friends with Giles. But is there kind of a bit of beef on who could find the next cool place, or who could shame the next place for? And also, have you ever got any shit from a chef for giving him a bad review?
You see, what I try to do, I work for You Magazine, The Mail, and I have much shorter, far fewer words than everyone else. But what I try to do is look for the best, and there's so much good stuff out there. It's much easier. Oh, yummy. It's much easier. The language of hate and disgust is far richer and more complex than the language of love and adoration, the rest of it. But, there's so much good stuff. I feel my job is to go out and find good things, all over the country. In terms of beefs, no, absolutely not. There are beefs between critics and I love, Grace, Giles, William. I do MasterChef with Jay. I just tend to... Faye, Faye's the doyen of it all. Adrian Gill was terrifying. Did
you ever come?
Oh, plenty.
Sort of within his
so much. No, but he would. He was a brilliant writer, and he could be very sharp in life as well as in print. But also one of the kindest, sweetest men of all time. If something awful happened, So, but you wouldn't. He was quite terrifying to be with.
Yeah.
No, sometimes, especially as I was fairly newbie in that whole thing. God, this looks good. That must have taken. Lasagna is one of those dishes that uses 4 pots.
So, yeah, it does, all the pots. Unfortunately, I've left quite a state in the kitchen.
Have you? How would that go down?
Terribly. Can I ask a very pedestrian question, Tom? How do you decide what to review? Because there's clearly, there's hot places and you want to get there early on or whatever. But what is the process for that?
I've got a longer lead time than many of my, sort of Jimmy or David now at the Standard have the shortest lead time. That, by the way, is absolutely delicious.
Very nice,
it has chili in it as well. My God,
It
you add
some
chili? That's absolutely lovely.
Yeah. Well, it's basically the very good merguez that.
And what did you do? Make a ragu with that? Or?
Made a ragu with that. They also sent a little parcel of beef mince. Oh. So you got those 2 in there. And then a spoonful of
that's gorgeous.
From Delhi, who also have been a sponsor of the podcast, still are. Lamiri harissa. I don't know if you ever come across it. It's a really good harissa. So there's a bit of that in there. And otherwise, just a simple.
That's gorgeous.
But also your bechamel is silken. Your pastas. That is
and that salad is lovely.
Oh, good.
Thanks,
Lightens it up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You're a very good chef, Ben.
I always try my best.
Are you a pro?
I was a pro.
Really? Where?
I'm not a pro anymore, Tom. A series of restaurants that are now closed, which is not very helpful.
No, apart from Rochelle.
Rochelle Canteen, the Dot Kitchen. Did you ever go to the Dot Kitchen?
I love it. I lived there in the Dot Kitchen,
Yeah.
especially at the beginning. Do you remember in lockdown you had those booths?
Yeah, out on the terrace as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love Stevie.
Yeah,
I love Stevie's
that
food.
was where I was for the longest time.
That food was amazing.
Yeah, it was. It's amazing. Yeah.
And it only closed down because of the deal with the landlord.
I know, it's very frustrating. I think it still sits empty, which is just like a
especially
travesty.
because my girlfriend lives literally around the corner.
Oh, really?
She's up on Barbie Road. It was just brilliant.
Yeah.
I love Stevie's first book as well.
His like before.
Do you remember they did James Ramsey
It
did
was
one?
the
he did
series,
one.
yeah, and Alice. I can't remember her surname.
Stevie's is a really he's a really good chef. Where's he?
I think he's about to burst back onto the scene. I think he's opening a massive restaurant.
Is he?
With I don't know if I'm allowed to say this.
Why not?
He's in the new year. He's going to open a new restaurant.
Well, the funniest thing is that most of us critics, and I speak for a few of us, but we go to hot dinners and see.
Yeah.
Hot dinners know everything in London. But then you're always looking for wherever I am, because you want to do a couple out of town. And if you're in Edinburgh, I take it very seriously. You look into. It's usually, to be honest, with my taste, it's sort of a Szechuan place, rather than a tasting menu place. But you write for your readers, and if your readers, occasionally, if it's, where's new that everyone has to go to?
Where's been the best place you've been to this year, should we say?
I tell you what, I love Lita and Marylebone. God, it was expensive. The wine list.
Ian said that, didn't he?
People have been going on about that, yeah.
Lita was incredible. I actually went to Rochelle for the first time, and now Hector's doing it.
Yeah,
he head chef.
Yeah,
and it was absolutely sublime.
Yeah,
it was sort of well behaved offal. There was was it rabbit hearts or something?
Oh, nice.
Really spiced rabbit hearts.
Yeah,
it was really really good cooking. I really liked. Canteen. I'm obsessed by.
Is it in Notting Hill?
In Notting Hill.
Yeah.
Listen, good restaurant, Notting Hill shock. It's although there have been a lot of decent ones recently, but they never used to. We used to have to go over the road into Bayswater.
No, now it's become the place to be, right?
Yeah.
Well, Goulburn Road, it's got like 4 or 5 good ones.
Well, exactly. There's a couple that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Canteen is brilliant. It's 2X River Cafe chefs.
Yeah.
It's done by the I think it's called the Pubco who did.
Yeah.
Because I used to live next to the Pelican for years.
Oh, really?
Crack pub for years. And
We were upstairs at the Fat Badger, which is yet to be opened.
Yes.
With George, friend of the show, who was ex-head chef at the Bull in Charbury.
Oh, the Pelican's great. Very, far younger than my crowd. But I had my daughter's, I think it was 18th, 17th. We took the private room and we had a really nice time. But Canteen, no bookings. Where Pizza East used to be, it's River Cafe food.
Well, they've got the pizza ovens, right? So it is almost River Cafe. Yeah.
It is
kind
and
of setup.
Oh, the pasta! I think the reason
Quite anxious though, not having a booking if you're going for with friends. Do you know what I mean?
I'm not
because I can imagine it fills up quickly. Because there aren't that many covers in there, surprisingly, even though it's quite a big room.
No.
Unless they're sitting upstairs. Maybe.
Well, the Fat Badger, because they're doing a menu there, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
It really blew me away, and I've been back about 6 times.
Oh, really?
I really, really like it.
Right, Freddie, we need to...
And where else? Yeah, and then I like that new Santiago place. Well, I haven't reviewed that yet. Santiago Lastras. And I love, to be honest, but I love JKS Group. Brilliant what they do.
Yeah.
They're just clever and on it. And same with Hearts Group as well. But there's so much happening, and also all across the country.
Yeah.
You can always find somewhere good. Well,
have you? Is there? When you've been on your travels around the country, are there any hotspots?
Bristol.
Surprising.
Okay,
Bristol.
Bristol's amazing.
Yeah.
I got a friend called Mark Taylor, who's a great writer, and so he's always saying, right, you've got to come to this. Whether it's in Bristol, Bath, he's always way ahead of it. And I think Bristol. I also think that Edinburgh's pretty good.
Edinburgh's having a real moment, isn't it? Yeah.
I went to a place called it was this sort of New York Chinesey place, but by a British chef.
Ooh.
I can't remember. I can never remember what they were called. But anyway, it was really.
We'll try and I don't know.
Well, let's stay on your go-to locations, and let's say if you're going out for a sort of weeknight meal, nothing fancy, where are you going?
Either Fitu, which is around the corner, because I'm lazy and I like to be able to walk home. Fitu, Hereford Road, rest in peace. One of the great. Tom Pemberton trained under Ferguson, was head chef at Food and Wine, opened about 15 years ago. And even when he closed it a few months ago, the set menu was still, I think, 18 quid for 3 courses and a glass of wine. It was out of this world good. I love that. Mandarin Kitchen up on Bayswater on Queensway. River Cafe, preferably if someone else is paying. But River Cafe, I think, is just flawless. I just love the atmosphere as much as the thing.
Have you tried the Cafe?
I did a piece on it, and I didn't actually eat there, but I sat and sort of interviewed Ruthie in there.
Yeah,
but it looked really nice. Have you tried it?
I haven't. To be honest, I just think it's the best name of a restaurant I've ever come across.
Look, River Cafe. Where else do I know?
Nearly as good as the original River Cafe you go to. Putney.
On Putney Bridge.
Yeah, the actual cafe.
Breakfast.
I remember that. And but there, where else do I go to? Thai. Oh, Minjiang on top of West London Boy. Again, not cheap, but really, really good.
Yeah. Well, if you're going for a blowout, you're celebrating something very special.
If I could get in A Wong.
Yes.
I love A Wong. Andrew Wong is a genius.
Pimlico, right? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just, what he does is exquisite. The Ritz, the best, I think. I went to Jason Atten's new place, not Mary's, which I love, but his new slightly posher place. It's in that St James's Square.
Okay, yeah.
Where what's that wonderful sort of Nigerian Ikoyi?
Yeah.
That was really. I think Jason Atten's a brilliant chef.
Yeah.
He's sort of back now.
He's back big time, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got 3 places.
Yeah.
I think.
Everyone's closing. He's opening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's. But I prefer give me regional Chinese, regional Indian, regional Mexican. I'm excited about the new. Going absolutely mad. I've just literally got an email from lovely Henry Taylor about it. This is how much my memory. He's got one round here, Mexican Santa Remedio.
Oh yeah.
He's brilliant. Because again, one of the best meals I've had this year, and I found out about it from Instagram of all things. I had to join Instagram for this book. Yeah, and I was like, Instagram. Now I just sit.
Yeah.
The children are like, have you seen this one? Sending them, and like, oh Jesus Christ, just leave it. And I'm like, looking at fart jokes.
Yeah.
And buying clothes, I bought my trousers for. I love it.
I know it's amazing. They just tell you what you need.
Yeah, I know. And I buy.
You never have to leave the house. It's incredible.
But there was a place. It's called Serious Tacos, and it's in Nags Head Market in Holloway Road. And she is the loveliest lady. And it's just literally there's a couple of tables. She's from Mexico City. She does 4 tacos, makes all her tortillas fresh, makes her salsas fresh. And it was just one of those things. I thought, I love London. Go into this market, a classic market, and there were all sorts of stuff around it. And it was just brilliant. I think it was 10 quid for 4 tacos.
That is
and a harritos.
Great. Because one of Jonathan Nunn's rants is that there's no good Mexican food in London. And why would there be? Because we don't have a big enough community. Yeah. But I think so. That's a great tip.
With Edson, with Santiago at the sort of top end, and then very much with those smaller places. This was really good. It was, she said there wasn't any decent food, Mexican tortillas, and actually she catered a party for my girlfriend, and it was just brilliant.
There we go.
Really, really some of the best food I've eaten.
What about your dream long weekend getaway? Where are you going?
How long's the weekend?
Well, 4 days.
I'd say it would probably be Lisbon. The light's amazing there. I love Portugal.
Yeah.
And there's one of my favourite restaurants as well, which is called Cerveceria Ramirez, which is it's got football, it's just a beer place,
Yeah.
But actually, there are queues from 12 o'clock, and you get your pesebas, and you get your huge sort of carabineros, and you get, it's just everything you want in a restaurant, and you can watch the football, and good beer and good wine. Then you go to the more, cutting edge stuff. I think that Nuno Mendes has got a new place there. But it's very cutting edge, but yet very traditional, incredible, as you'd imagine, Southern Indian Goan food there.
Yeah.
I would also, I love Naples, Paris. It's full of Parisians, but that's of its nature.
Yeah.
I've fallen back in love with Paris again. Chez Georges, Fontaine de Mar, really traditional brasseries and bistros. I really like. I don't want to go. I've done that.
Yeah.
I have huge respect for the talent of the three-star chefs and the tasting menus and all that. And I know there's nothing but respect, but I don't really want to go.
They've come to know. We had Phil Howard on last week, and he was saying,
a genius.
It's just no fun. Those tasting menus.
You want a nice plate of food.
Tom, you've been absolutely wonderful. Talking about food, we're going to finish off with a couple of things. And the first thing is Deli Steady Cook. This is our game by Deli, and you can get everything we talk about here and everything on their website, which is growing by the minute. And they do the most incredible independent products. So as Ben brings the bag to the table, he had a bit of an accident on the way here. He fell over. Did he fall over?
No, I don't know what's happened. I don't want to cast aspersions on
No,
the
there's something
quality of the
happened.
deli bags, but
No. please don't. Yeah.
well, listen, I've got some nice stuff for you, Tom, and
So we're going to give you some items.
you're going to make a.
I'm allowed to say I love Bold Bean Co.
Yeah.
Well, more than allowed to say that,
because I have the big chickpeas from them, and I love the juice it comes in as well.
Yeah.
They are brilliant.
There's the deli bag. Unfortunately, there's a hole in it.
Take our listeners through who can't see what's on the table, what you've got.
Well, as Tom said, we got Bold Bean.
Yep.
I think this is just it's their white beans.
Yep. Oh, geez.
So I'm going to come to that later. This is it's a Malaysian
sambal,
fiery chili sauce from Makan, Malaysia, which
Lovely.
is delicious. Then let's go to this, which is a Malay red ginger lily chili oil, another Malaysian chili treat.
I love Malaysian food as well.
Yeah,
It's just
outrageous.
world.
And then we sort of dive left here with a little sort of beetroot tahini drizzle.
Gosh, that's very Ottolenghi.
Yeah. And then just to finish my stack, Big Jim's hot sauce, hot toddy.
Oh, I've had that. I haven't had the hot toddy, but I've had that. Oh my
Must say
god.
it's a
I
great
think this
set.
might be a new one.
This must be the highest we've ever gone.
And then, I don't know, you can have these on your journey home.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's a rum and apple drink.
Oh gosh, thank you so. Oh my god. So is that for me?
This is for you.
Oh my god.
And in an ideal world, you'd
what would I cook?
sort of come up with a dish or a couple of dishes. You can bring some other stuff to the party.
Definitely. Well, straight out, it would be the sambal. Are you allowed to put other ingredients in?
Yeah. Bring whatever you need.
Definitely some prawns, really good fresh prawns with the sambal. And it's a sauce, but I'm sure you could cook in that. Cook those. And also, I hate overcooked prawns with that in it as well. Do your rice and then get your shallots. I mean, that's probably got crispy shallots in it. Is it the crispy?
You can add extras to the party there.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's chucking in. So you've got your sambal prawns with lots of lovely chili in there. Then you've got your rice with your your chili oil and the rest of it.
Yeah.
This hot toddy, I think, that's for a drink, isn't it? I'd say, isn't it? Is it?
Yeah, I think you could.
You can do
lime
anything.
or something. I think
it's actually a sauce.
it is a hot sauce.
Oh, I see whiskey barrels. I've got one of these. They're really nice. And then the beans, of course, I just do raw red onion, garlic. This is a real anti-vampire and anti-anyone one. Lots of lime juice. And you could probably put coriander in them. I was trying to think what sort of nice Malaysian herbs, but that would be your sort of cooling, cutting through salad, basically.
Lovely.
Through the fiery prawns and
the fresh chilies, and definitely red onions for crunch, and that all goes in there. So you have that yum. You have your sambal, then you have your rice with your chili.
I mean, you don't have to use all of it, Tom.
And the hot sauce, the hot sauce, and the drizzle. I mean, tahini. Well, you could if I could. There's a new book actually that I've just seen the galleys for. who the sambal, what are they called? The great.
Sambal Sheikh.
No, I love Sambal Sheikh. The ones who are behind King's Cross who do the best roti. Tiny little place. I've got it actually. I have to.
What are they called?
Say. Here we go. It is called a Roti King.
Roti King.
So you'd have some Roti King things there, and you could probably use your tahini for the Roti King.
We should say all of these are exclusive, or most of them are exclusive, apart from the bowl beans, to Delhi, and you can get hold of them, plus their thousands of other incredible items just in time for Christmas. And guess what? We're going to give you 25% off. Yep. How generous are we, Ben? Just put in the code Go to Delhi.
How many L's in that?
2 L's in Delhi. Tom, if you're after buying anyone some treats for Christmas, then please go on the Delhi website and put in the code Go to Delhi.
Genius.
And you'll get 25% off, which is quite incredible.
Wow.
Tom, you've been wonderful. We should say that people should also click the link in the bio and buy this incredible book, Cooking and the Crown. Also, they could buy 7 of your other books as well. Yeah. Whilst they're at it.
Why don't you get the full?
Or would you prefer them to buy this one? No.
I mean, to buy that one. My one of my favourite books, which is different. I love that book. But one of my favourite is being republished next year by.
Well, we'll have to get you back on.
Yeah, Let's Eat, which is really my food. Whereas the Fortnum's book's Cooking the Crown is food I'm fascinated in. It's not the food I eat every day. But that is a cookbook I'd say to use and abuse every day. It's got really easy recipes.
It's a great Christmas gift.
I say perfect.
This and Delhi are great Christmas gifts. Tom, you've been wonderful. We're going to finish off by saying, what is your go-to 3-course meal?
Okay. I've done enough Thai. I don't know Mexican. You know what? I'd always think if someone else is paying really good caviar. I really like caviar. And I think even if it was sold at £2 in my local shop, I'd still love it. I mean, the expense puts me off it massively. But just that, none of this nonsense with eggs and onions, that's just absolute heresy. Blinis, hot blinis, a little bit of sour cream, maybe baked potatoes where you scoop it out, mix it with sour cream and butter, put it back in, then a big whack of cold caviar on top. Anyway, again, this is the ideal one. Main course, I could go through so many things. Steak and kidney pudding or shepherd's pie, but probably roast chicken. I'll go back to roast chicken, really either dauphinoise or really proper roast potatoes. And I love things like Brussels sprouts, and of course gravy. Gravy is, it's not, you don't just have to be a northerner to love gravy. Gravy is key. The French do not understand, and other cultures don't understand gravy. Although the Americans have their gravy and the French have their jus. And then pudding, I definitely have a savoury, because that's one of the courses unique to the British, that it's before the onslaught of sweets, and sweet things, and they all come in, and it would be sort of either like a Welsh rarebit or a canapes Ivanhoe, of which there are recipes in there, because the audience loved a savoury. And then pudding, God, what pudding do I like? Probably a souffle or something like that. Or actually, no, a treacle sponge. Let's keep it
British.
And custard.
Yeah.
We do some things really well. We put ourselves down.
Our savouries are great in this country.
Our savouries, and we do pies, and we're pretty good at this is my great theory about why British food doesn't travel. It's so ingredient and seasonally led that it just doesn't. A Dover sole plain or a pot of shrimps, or I'm not saying it has the complexity of Thai or French or Indian regional, but
it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's good,
and it's us. Tom, you've been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for coming in. Please get hold of this wonderful book and the others when they come out next year.
Thank you
and
so
the
much
others
for
are available.
having me.
Ben, thank you for the most delicious food.
That was
absolute pleasure, Freddie.
Absolutely lovely.
And we should say thank you to Swelldale for providing the meat. It was amazing.
100%.
Very good meat.
Delhi for providing these wonderful items, which Tom came up with, and I think that's it. Do we have any other sponsors? I don't think so.
Those are the entirety of our sponsors.
If you want to pay for something. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please, if you are watching on YouTube, subscribe, make sure you like the video, and we bring out an audio-only podcast on Thursdays, so please click the link in the bio and subscribe to that. Until then, have a wonderful Christmas, and thank you very much.
Thank you guys so much.
Go-tos.
What a joy.
Yeah.
Sorry, what song do you want us to play you out with?
Oh, God.
It's got to be something from the 90s, doesn't it?
I'd say definitely we could go for, I don't know, Orbital Belfast, maybe.
Yeah.
Very nice.
We'll go for that. Tom, those are your go-tos. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. God, what a joy. God,
Tom,
if only all publicity was like this. You eat, you drink, and you get lovely things as well. Thank you so much.